Dov Zakhaim is the former Undersecretary of Defense in George W. Bush administration and currently Senior Advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies, is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Zakhaim, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome. Do you think Israel, although indirectly, has attained its long-aspired objective of dragging the U.S. into a war with Iran if America does indeed deploy the THAAD?
Not necessarily. We are committed to defending Israel or helping to defend Israel. THAAD is fundamentally a defensive weapon. It can't attack Iran. We have ships in the region. We are not using our aircraft on the carriers to attack Iran. So, no, I don't think it's a matter of dragging America in. On the other hand, we've already been involved in shooting down Iranian missiles and Iranian drones. And not only us, the Jordanians, for their own reasons, have done that. The British have done that. This is just another example of America defending Israel. But I think we've been very clear all along, and still are, that we're not going to help Israel offensively. And that's a major message, particularly when you think about the possibility of Israel attacking Iran's nuclear sites. Mr. Biden has said, absolutely not.
Mr. Zakhaim, Iran says there will be no red lines in its defenses. What do they mean by that? What do you understand from that statement by Iran?
Well, it's ambiguous, of course. What do you mean by a red line, considering that they've fired ballistic missiles over nearly 200 ballistic missiles at Israeli cities and facilities? To me, that's pretty much a violation of any red line. I mean, in fact, it's an act of war. And it isn't the first time. I mean, after all, in April, they did the same thing. So I don't know what they mean by a red line. If they mean that they have a nuclear weapon that they want to fire, I don't think they'd be clever enough to do that, simply because the Israeli air defenses could shoot that kind of a missile down. And on the other hand, the Israelis, everyone believes, have nuclear weapons. And that could be the end of a lot of Iran and certainly of Tehran. So I don't think it's that. If they mean more missiles, they're simply asking for a tougher level of Israeli retaliation, which, by the way, the Israelis still haven't signaled exactly what they plan to do.
Mr. Zakhaim, let's talk about Lebanon. And we had the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying or urging the United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres to remove the peacekeepers in Lebanon because they pose a great danger. If a war is to erupt, then they will be in danger. Do you think Israel is using, or Prime Minister Netanyahu is using that as a scapegoat?
Not really. The problem, as we know, and you know, there have been secret Hamas documents that have now been made public and even reviewed by the New York Times that indicate how Hamas and Hezbollah have colluded, perhaps not as much as Hamas had wanted, but certainly colluded against Israel. And both of them use their fighters with hiding behind civilian shields, human shields. And so what Netanyahu is essentially saying is that UNIFIL, the so-called peacekeeping force, is in great danger if the Israelis go after these Hezbollah fighters. Now, I should point out that I'm biased. I had a very close friend who was in UNIFIL and was killed by terrorists. In fact, my small children at the time had dinner with him a week before he was killed and then saw him dead on television. So I have no sympathy for the terrorists, and I know exactly what they're trying to do with UNIFIL. Netanyahu knows very well that the UNIFIL's not going to move. Guterres has not been particularly sympathetic to Israel, but at least he's laying down a marker that if UNIFIL is wise, it would move away because they're going to go after the Hezbollah fighters. Now, one could argue whether they should have gone in on the ground in the first place. I personally was not so sure it was a wise idea, but they're there on the ground. They're being fired at. And they want to clear out every Hezbollah fighter up to the Litani River, and as well go after the Hezbollah leadership, which they've already had. So given all of that, it would be wise for UNIFIL to pull out. But if they don't, they really are in danger. There's no question about it.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. I've been talking to Mr. Dov Zakheim, who's a former Undersecretary of Defense in George W. Bush administration and currently Senior Advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you, Mr. Zakheim, for all your insights and for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.